Insomniac Games has released at least one new video game every year since 2018. In 2018, it released Marvel's Spider-Man to widespread critical acclaim. In 2019 it released the VR title Stormland, and then in 2020, Insomniac launched Spider-Man Miles Morales as a PS5 launch title, and the next-gen version of Marvel's Spider-Man as a remastered one. Last month Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart released, which has been consistently selling great, and has been in the #1 boxed art sales for 3 weeks, and in the top 10 in more than 4 weeks. And now it seems that the wait for the next Spider-Man game may actually be shorter than expected, as it appears Spider-Man 2 actors are already doing mocap work for the game. Najee Jeter, who played Miles Morales in Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales, recently posted an image online of him in mocap gear. It didn't take long for the image to be deleted, but not before some were able to screenshot it. Now, it's entirely possible that Najee Jeter is doing mocap for a completely different video game or an entirely unrelated project, but the most likely scenario is that this is for Spider-Man 2 on PS5. While some may be surprised that Spider-Man 2 would already be at this point in production, it's worth pointing out that the game has likely been in active development for years now. Insomniac Games is a beast and has multiple projects at a time, which is how it's regularly released new games on a near-annual basis over the years. Considering this, it's entirely within the realm of possibility that the Spider-Man 2 game will drop in 2022 or 2023, despite both Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Spider-Man Miles Morales releasing just months ago. Insomniac Games have 3 teams and are expanding, and it is said that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was in development since 2019, where the creative director Brian Intihar actually confirmed that. As for what Spider-Man 2 will entail, that remains to be seen. Those that managed to beat the 2018 Spider-Man game know that it's quite likely the symbiote suit will play a role in Spider-Man 2, as will the Green Goblin. Whether or not famous Spider-Man villain Venom makes an appearance, or if he is saved for a potential third game in the series is up for debate, and we won't know until Insomniac shares more about the game. As it stands, it will likely be quite some time before Insomniac pulls the curtain back on Spider-Man 2. Right now PlayStation is focused on exclusives like Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and God of War Ragnarok. One has to imagine that the attention will remain on those games for the time being, so we may not get to see Spider-Man 2 until next year or later. Insomniac Games recently hiring for a multiplayer project, as we have discussed those in a previous video. They are really in a way different level when it comes to quality and fast processing with consistency. Moving forward, we have an update about Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 7 was one of the first PlayStation 5 games announced for Sony's new console, but while it was intended for a 2021 release, COVID-related issues unfortunately led to GT7 being delayed until 2022. Since it lacks a specific release month, we could end up having to wait until the end of next year. Hopefully, a recent discovery may indicate that they'll at least be able to try out the game at some point before then. According to GT Planet, a website dedicated to racing sim titles like the Gran Turismo series, a beta for Gran Turismo 7 was spotted on the official PlayStation website. Specifically, it could be accessed by the Experience PlayStation section. Experience PlayStation is an app released several years ago and is designed to offer special promotions as part of live events. At this time, the beta in question seems to have been removed, but not before GT Planet grabbed a screenshot to verify its existence. By selecting Start Quest and then related campaigns, something explicitly called the Gran Turismo quest could be found, with it offering a code for a beta test. Strangely, the quest seemed to be part of a promotion in Italy yet was available worldwide until Sony took it down. Even if it hadn't been removed, the beta was completely inaccessible anyway. After watching 10 seconds of a trailer for Gran Turismo 7, a beta code is offered, but it didn't work since it was just a placeholder of 1234-5678-9012. Still, its presence alone strongly suggests that Sony is at least planning to make a beta available via this method. Curiously, the code was spotted to be exclusive to the PS5. Since Gran Turismo 7 was previously confirmed by PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst himself to be a cross-gen title, meaning it will releases on both PS5 and PlayStation 4, only last month. This probably just means that PS4 owners won't be able to access the beta, and not that Sony is canceling the PS4 version or anything. As disappointing as this will be for PS4 owners, it shouldn't come as a surprise. Sony has obviously been pushing the PS5 over the PS4, and there has already been at least one example of a PS5 exclusive beta. Square Enix's Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin had a PS5-only beta, despite being a multi-platform game and scheduled to release for the PS4 as well. When Sony will actually formally announce the beta and make it official is unknown for the time being. Hopefully, the wait won't be too much longer, as it may be announced at the next PlayStation event that could be held on August 12th or 26th, when you actually calculate the previous steps of PlayStation events and their announcements. In recent months, Sony has submitted patents for a number of innovations for the PlayStation 5 and the company's service offerings in general. Some of these patents are for relatively minor additions to the PlayStation experience, while others could change the face of gaming in more profound ways. For example, a fun and light-hearted patent involves reading players' real-life facial expressions with a camera located in the controller and then converting the expression into an emoji that can be sent to other people. Another Sony patent submitted in June would allow those using PlayStation VR to observe games from the viewpoint of other players and also release them from the tether, so to speak, to explore the game world on their own. Several of Sony's more recent patents involve esports, and it seems that the company is interested in becoming more involved in this very popular aspect of video game culture. On July 8, Sony submitted a continuation of a patent originally filed in 2018. The patent is titled Online Tournament Integration and would make it easier for players, developers, and third-party organizers to quickly create a gaming tournament, whether it be a large-scale esports competition or a smaller event among friends. This addendum to the previously filed patent comes less than a month before the Evolution Championship Series, commonly referred to as EVO, which Sony acquired in March, although it's unlikely that anything will come of this patent in time for that particular event. The framework of the proposed online tournament integration system would be a gaming network platform on which players would need to have an account to register for esports events. A variety of games would be integrated into the platform, ranging from 1v1 titles, team-based games, or any game that gives people the ability to compete against other players and therefore lends itself to tournament-style play. With the proposed system, one player would be designated the organizer of the tournament who could then send out invitations to other players. The system would provide tools for team management, event tracking, specifying tournament parameters, social tools, instant messaging, and browsing live and archived streams of esports events. Additionally, spectators of an event who become interested in following a particular competitor could be linked to information about other tournaments in which that player participated. According to Sony's patent filing, gaming tournaments are most successful when the skills of participants are at a similar level, so the online tournament integration system would allow organizers to require specific qualifications in order to participate. This could be carried out by having practice rounds that keep track of the player's metrics, or by evaluating a player's wins versus losses, total amount of time spent playing a particular game, the number of kills or points acquired, and so on. Sony undoubtedly made waves when debuting the Dualsense controller for PlayStation 5. A total redesign from PS4's DualShock, the Dualsense features a total shape overhaul along with truly next-gen features like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. The new functionalities have been lauded by just about everyone who's tried them, including head of Xbox Phil Spencer. Spencer was a guest on the most recent episode of the Kinda Funny Games cast, talking about what the future holds for Xbox. While he states his company won't be releasing any major accessories or peripherals anytime in the near future, he does suggest that a new version of the Xbox Series X controller is a strong possibility. The Xbox head says the company has been thinking about bringing more games to more places through different kinds of devices, and that there's probably some work that we'll do on the controller. Not to say he isn't satisfied with the one Xbox currently has, lauding Microsoft gaming engineering head Elizabeth Hamren's team for the work they've done so far. Spencer goes on to compliment Sony's innovations with PS5's DualSense, revealing he thinks Sony's done a nice job with its controller, and that Xbox has apparently been looking at some of its features and thinks there are things that we should go do. Spencer has actually complimented the PlayStation 5 controller before, applauding the same aspects of the Dualsense last November. Later in the Kind of Funny Games cast, the Xbox head was asked specifically about the chances of the company breaking into the VR or AR gaming space, to which he replied that it's not really something it's looking to do at the moment. He says that his company is watching what happens on PC, and that he would be looking for a fully untethered experience, a la the Oculus Quest 2. He theorizes that translating Xbox IP to the different platform would be the biggest hurdle, plus the complexities of first versus third-party partnerships. Microsoft tossing around the idea of implementing PS5 controller features like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers onto the Xbox Series X controller comes as little surprise. Earlier this year, Xbox surveyed gamers about PS5's DualSense controller features. The Console Experience survey asked Xbox Series X owners whether they thought their controller felt next-gen, and if there were features on PlayStation controllers that players wished were also on Xbox. While new controllers oftentimes take years to develop and produce, Phil Spencer's comments coupled with the overt survey suggests an updated design could be coming sooner than later. While PlayStation and Xbox have a semi-pseudo rivalry, Microsoft is already incorporating its competitors' controllers. It could indicate that Sony is already sharing notes, and a revamped Xbox Series X controller could be on the horizon. But in order to incorporate those in the Xbox controller, they have to choose another way or make partnerships with Sony to get access to their tech, which is very unlikely, but we have to wait and see if Xbox gets a decent upgrade, along with quality games. Speaking on the horizon, Tango Gameworks delays its upcoming PlayStation 5 console exclusive game Ghostwire Tokyo, so that it will no longer release this year. Microsoft's acquisition of ZeniMax Media and its studios means that developers like Tango Gameworks now fall under the Xbox Game Studios umbrella. Even so, Microsoft is honoring PlayStation exclusivity agreements that were made prior to the acquisition, which is why Tango Gameworks' upcoming Ghostwire Tokyo game is in development as a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Originally slated to launch this October, the Ghostwire Tokyo release date has now slipped to next year. Tango Gameworks made the announcement on the official Ghostwire Tokyo Twitter page. A specific release date wasn't announced, but the developers said that the new Ghostwire Tokyo release date will be at some point in early 2022. The delay is so the developers can deliver an unforgettable version of a haunted Tokyo that lives up to their vision without having to sacrifice the health of their team members. Tango Gameworks then thanked fans for their patience, and to deliver an experience unlike anything else we've ever made. The Tango Gameworks developers then capped off the announcement by saying that more on the game will be shown in the coming months, so it's unlikely we will have to wait for next year to see more of Ghostwire Tokyo in action. Some Tango Gameworks fans may be disappointed by the Ghostwire Tokyo delay, but it's safe to say that I and some others likely saw it coming. Besides a couple of Ghostwire Tokyo trailers, very little has been shown about the game, and it was nowhere to be seen at the latest PlayStation State of Play. The State of Play instead focused most of its attention on another PlayStation exclusive from Xbox Game Studios, Deathloop, which is being developed by Arcane. Speaking of Xbox, the Ghostwire Tokyo delay is also going to impact when the game will be available on Xbox platforms. While specifics aren't known, it's likely that the Ghostwire Tokyo PS5 exclusivity deal will last a year, meaning that it now won't be out on Xbox until 2023 at the earliest. Those hoping to play Ghostwire Tokyo when it inevitably comes to the Xbox Game Pass service have a seriously long wait ahead of them. In the meantime, fans should be able to look forward to seeing Ghostwire Tokyo sooner rather than later. Rumor has it that another PlayStation event will take place next month, so maybe it will make an appearance there. Alternatively, it could show up at Gamescom, the Tokyo Game Show, or even the Game Awards at the end of the year. It's been known for a while that both Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop will be timed PS5 exclusives, and then will make their way to Xbox platforms once their exclusivity deals are up. Sony was pretty transparent when initially advertising for the PS5 about which of its titles will be exclusives, and which will be released elsewhere. Both Ghostwire, Tokyo and Deathloop are being published by Bethesda Softworks, and the fine print on all of their trailers said that they'd be PS5 exclusives for 12 months following their PlayStation debuts. Following Microsoft's $7.5 billion acquisition of ZeniMax Media in fall 2020, all eyes were on the company to see how it would handle the exclusivity deals that certain ZeniMax-owned studios had made with Sony. Microsoft said that it would be honoring the contracts previously made, and so Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo will be only available on the PS5 until their contracts run their courses. Once the contracts are up, however, it's likely Microsoft will go all out for both games to arrive on their platforms. Now that Deathloop's release is growing closer, information on when it'll be available for Xbox consoles is beginning to come together, ultimately informing what the release of Ghostwire Tokyo might look like as well. The Deathloop trailer from the July State of Play said the game will be available outside of the PS5 after September 14, 2022, meaning that Deathloop's exclusivity is based off of when the game actually releases, and not when it was initially supposed to. Deathloop was originally meant to release on May 21, 2021, but like many AAA titles this year was pushed back. At the end of the day, Ghostwire Tokyo's delay might be frustrating for fans who are anticipating the title, but it's a good thing in terms of the game's development and quality. While PS5 owners might be disappointed, things look bleakest for Xbox owners, who are patiently waiting for the game to cross the console aisle potentially a year following its release. The Ghostwire Tokyo delay means that the wait will be even longer for Xbox owners, extending from waiting until late 2022 to early 2023. It's also worth noting that there's been no official announcement regarding Ghostwire Tokyo's eventual arrival on Xbox, but it feels like only a matter of time until an announcement comes. It's likely such a statement will come after one regarding Deathloop, as the Arcane title is releasing first. However, it makes sense that Microsoft will say something as Ghostwire's exclusivity contract comes to a close. When that will be specifically is still unclear. In the meantime, there's not much else anyone can do other than to keep eyes open for new Ghostwire Tokyo trailers, wait patiently for early 2022, and hope that that means a January release rather than a March one. Death Stranding Director's Cut is launching in just a few months, and while Hideo Kojima is likely proud of all the new content coming to the game, there is one thing that does not please him. According to the mastermind behind Death Stranding Director's Cut, the title is not something he would have chosen. The new content in Death Stranding Director's Cut is extensive, ranging from extra story missions to fresh features. Leaderboards and a still unrevealed friend play feature have been mentioned, while 3D audio, haptic feedback, and the PS5's SSD will all be taken advantage of. Performance and fidelity modes will also create some more visually impressive versions of the game. With new weapons, improved melee combat, and some extra delivery tools also showcased, there is clearly a lot to look forward to. However, Hideo Kojima has since told Death Stranding fans the reason why he is not a fan of the remaster's title. A massive fan of movies, Kojima is constantly giving his thoughts on big-budget films like Justice League to low-budget indie releases. As such, he argues that the way Director's Cut is being used for Death Stranding is incorrect. As pointed out by the industry icon, in filmmaking, a director's cut is an extra edit to a shortened version that was either released reluctantly, or because the running time had to be shortened. In the case of Death Stranding, Kojima argues that his full vision was released back in 2019, with nothing needing to be shortened and Sony not forcing his hand. He follows up by reiterating that Death Stranding Director's Cut is not bringing back content that was on the cutting room floor. Instead, it is made up of additionally produced content that was built after the original game released. He also suggests a different name for the game, with Directors Plus being his preferred title. Though the name cannot be changed now, he does not like using it. Kojima's argument that the name does not make sense is a fair one when looking at the movie definition of a director's cut. Still, Sony likely wanted to keep the same style for all its PS5 re-releases, as the new version of Ghost of Tsushima also features a director's cut subtitle. On top of that, its cover art has been made gold just like Death Stranding's, showcasing a remarkably similar marketing style. However, while consistency is good, director's cut does not fit there, either. Much like Death Stranding's new content, Iki Island was created after the original game made its debut. With recent rumors suggesting that Bloodborne's leaked remaster will be called the Hunter's Edition, perhaps that PlayStation exclusive will escape the director's cut branding. When it comes to Death Stranding though, Kojima would have certainly preferred another name. Speaking of director's cut, according to a quality assurance tester, the upcoming Iki Island featured in Ghost of Tsushima director's cut will add about 15 to 20 hours of gameplay into the mix. The tester went into a fair bit of detail about the new island featured in Sucker Punch Productions' re-release of its epic samurai title. In addition to the actual length, they claimed the size of the island is roughly the same as the bottom half of Tsushima Island, and is home to new wildlife including monkeys, leopards, and squirrels. Elsewhere, players can expect to encounter new shrines, new compositions for your flute, and new Mongol enemy types. Torches have also been added, and there's heavy armor sets to acquire, as well as 3 new horse arbors and dozens of extra charms. The tester also discovered a new fighting stance and fresh upgrades for swords and bows, and there's a volcano located on the island to boot. Ghost of Tsushima director's cut is definitely a day one buy, and if you guys are wondering if the $30 price will be worth it. Yes, it will be. And the $10 upgrade has been bashed on articles and Twitter. But no one is talking about the FIFA next-gen upgrade that costs $30. I can see bias here, and as I will always say that don't listen to those called journalists that does not do gaming and want to exist in the gaming space just for the sake of to be in the discussion and talking point. I do not respect those guys. If you like a game, buy it and support the devs, and where there is quality there will always be a demand. Up next we have an interesting topic on a game to discuss about. A disagreement between SEGA and talent agency Johnny's is keeping Yakuza spin-off Lost Judgment off PC. Lost Judgment recently got a significant spotlight at Sony's July State of Play. In a new trailer, developer Ryuji Gotaka Studio and publisher SEGA explored the blend of stealth, crime-solving, and action that set Lost Judgment apart from the Yakuza franchise that it spun off of. Lost Judgment is the sequel to 2018's Judgment, which first introduced fans to private detective Takayuki Yagami. The sequel releases for several consoles in just a few months, but notably, it doesn't look like it's coming to PC. In fact, the Judgment franchise might come to an end due to a dispute over whether or not to release it on PC. Signs once suggested that SEGA planned to put Lost Judgment on PC via Steam, but any sign of that version disappeared a long time ago. Now, reports have surfaced that SEGA and Japanese talent agency Johnny's are in a dispute about whether or not Lost Judgment should release on PC. Johnny's represents Takuya Kimura, a beloved Japanese actor who plays Takayuki Yagami in the Judgment series, and famously restricts appearances of its clients on the internet. Not only does Johnny's want to keep Lost Judgment off PC, but the inability to come to an agreement might mean that SEGA abandons the franchise altogether. Lost Judgment isn't the first time that Johnny's showed an aversion to interacting with the internet. In fact, the agency was exceedingly late to join social media and websites like YouTube, despite representing a ton of Japanese stars. Johnny's manages several popular Japanese boy bands, including the now disbanded SMAP, which Kimura was once a member of. Johnny's historically avoids letting information and images of talent like Kimura surface online from venues other than itself, and it seems that Lost Judgment's plight comes from the same desire for distance from the internet. SEGA, meanwhile, definitely wants to give the PC market access to Lost Judgment. Recently SEGA has shown an increasing eagerness to make its games available on Steam. For instance, the Yakuza franchise is broadly available on Steam, including the critically acclaimed Yakuza Like a Dragon, but Yakuza did not do well at PC. SEGA's desire for PC releases is further proven by Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Strikers, which both got recent, successful releases on PC. It's only logical that SEGA wants to make PC releases part of its normal operations, reaching a broader market and offering fans more options. Unfortunately, these two companies just can't seem to agree on Lost Judgment's fate. Johnny's may now be making use of YouTube and offering greater accessibility to its talent, but it's still rather restrictive about where and how its clients appear. Apparently, one place that it doesn't want Takuya Kimura to appear is on PC. It's unclear why Johnny's feels so strongly about this, but it's certainly an inconvenience for SEGA. Without Johnny's blessing, it's just not possible for Lost Judgment to reach the critical PC market. SEGA might consider that too much of an inconvenience to continue the Judgment series, and Johnny's might be too averse to further PC negotiations to let Kimura keep starring in the franchise. If there's any sign of hope for Lost Judgment's future, it may be Takuya Kimura himself. Reports suggest that Kimura really enjoys playing Takayuki Yagami, so he'd presumably be pretty upset if Johnny's PC avoidance meant he had to drop the role. Kimura might have the influence to convince Johnny's to change its stance, preserving the Judgment franchise. After all, there doesn't appear to be anything other than principle making Johnny's prevent the PC release. Since he's on the inside as its client, he might have the most influence over Johnny's principles. SEGA and Ryuji Gotoko could consider recasting the role of Takayuki in a theoretical third Judgment game, but since he uses the likeness of Kimura, that could be off the table. If Judgment continues, it might star a different protagonist altogether. Regardless of what SEGA settles on, it'll clearly have to do something drastic to keep Judgment afloat. The Yakuza franchise will be just fine if Judgment comes to an end, but on the whole, it'd be a shame to see such a promising new member of the detective game genre come to an end. But, if you ask me, I would say the actor could be correct. Not every game succeeds on PC, including some of the best quality games. The reason for the PC release ban may be due to some price cut and fear of putting them in multiple platforms and them not performing well in selected ones. All I know is that the all games should be everywhere statement is bullshit. Uniqueness in the console space and in PC and mobile must be a continuous transcending practice. Developing games for a single platform will stand out more than the multi-platform games in terms of quality. That's why PlayStation has a reputation of quality. I want Xbox to do the same, make some quality Xbox exclusives, and make it at least timed exclusives. It can be a turning point for Xbox and Xbox gamers, who are desperate to enjoy greatness on the side of Xbox. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and if you want to contribute for the growth of the channel, the link to my PayPal in the video's description and in the channel banner. Donations are always appreciated. Thanks for watching the video, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV it's goodbye.